What's going on, guys? I hope everybody had a good week. I had a pretty good week. Nothing negative happened, so I would say that's a good week. Hope yours was. Hope nothing out of the ordinary happened to you. What is this? All right. So, some of the comments sometimes hit me. Anyways, what's going on? So, some of the things, I got a few other things to talk about. One of the things I wanted to do in the Sunday night recap for, it should be the beginning of the week, but whatever. But it's the Australian social media ban, because I can already tell where this is going. It's amazing that no matter what, whenever somebody wants you to give up some right, cede power to the state, there's always a hypothetical person that they bring up. That's just how it goes. Like, hey, we wanna do digital ID because some of the things that kids are seeing online are harmful. Which, define harmful, because there's a lot of things that I could define as harmful that just go on in the world that I think are fucking bizarre. But it's always, well, Jay, we're gonna need digital ID, and me. Why do we need digital ID? Well, there's kids out there and they could see some things online, that could be harmful to them. What? Like social media where, like on Instagram, kids bully each other all day. I don't really see you sitting there going social media should be banned. But it's like what you really want is you want me to capitulate. It's, I have long said, TV, you should be able to put whatever you want on the TV in a free society. And then I get pushback. Somebody will go, porn. And I go, yeah, I have libertarian leanings on a lot of things. I have the attitude that involving the state rarely makes a problem go away or alleviates it. But it's, okay, well, a kid could turn on the TV. Okay, but where are the parents? Well, we as a state, we're trying to make the parents' job easier. It's not the state's responsibility. State's responsibility is the functioning of the country. Well, Jay, I mean, you're really just making excuses because you want degenerate content on TV. No. No, I actually don't. What I'm saying is we should generally lean towards freedom. And so here we are with this social media ban. And what it is I don't think people understand a lot of times that the state cannot protect you. And it's not the state's job to protect you. So what do we have going on with this social media ban that will eventually become digital IDs? Is that's what the ruling class wants. The ruling class wants digital IDs so they can control the narrative. Also, if you have a digital ID, they'll have, not that they already don't, the state monitors your IP, your internet address, right? Your internet protocol. Okay, there's a giant server farm, and there's probably more than one. I think it's out in Utah. And what they basically do is just capture all the data, right? This is the NSA spying that Edward Snowden reported on. It's all basically a lot of the surveillance state got much worse due to the war on drugs. This is another, there's always a hypothetical. Okay? You can't point me to the person in general, right? Because whenever we're having this argument, say, under the war on drugs, the government started massively spying on the populace. They started monitoring internet, or not internet. They started monitoring your phone calls. They were tapping all of that without warrants, getting your information. I forget what the name of it was. Carnivore comes to mind, and I'm going rote, so I'm probably wrong on that. But maybe I got that from Enemy of the State, so maybe it's not. But that name popped into my head, probably wrong. But yeah, during the war on drugs, how do they spy on you financially? Well, it's called structuring. So you're a criminal if you try to... Basically, the banks have taken over as the spies also. So if you try to bring $10,000 in cash into a bank, you have to fill out a thing where they say, where did you get this money? And it's like, do we live in a free society? What do you mean, where did I get this money? Go fuck yourself. That should be the response of Americans. And I love the way the PSYOP works. Now that my guy is in the office, it's okay if he does it, even though later on the other side is going to get use of those tools and use it against you. This is what the Democrats are currently finding out. Trump is going to go in there, give the government broad-ranging new powers like declaring you a terrorist so they don't have to give you a trial. Why do you think they want to get rid of trials in the UK? No. Just come in front of the judge. We already decided you're guilty, because we got this digital ID and we recorded, basically everything that you've ever said on Facebook. So now you're going to jail for 20 years, even though we covered up for the grooming gangs. Now, this is another fascinating thing that governments do, right? The Australian government locked its populace in concentration camps. I don't know what you want to call them. What was that during COVID? Looked like concentration camps to me. The Australian government disarmed its citizens and then basically became an authoritarian nightmare. Yes, I know Australians still have guns, but you don't really have a right to a firearm if you have to go to the state and ask for permission. Okay. So this is basically how it's going to start, in my opinion. So right now, nearly anything that the government does is easily gotten around anyways, and the only time anybody's going to actually get in trouble is you, the generally law-abiding citizen. I say generally because if why don't you talk to the cops? Simple thing. This is one of the things that I hate. I don't know. I've always had this tendency, and it's not a good thing. It has its good pieces, but it definitely has its negatives. In that I think almost everything is bullshit. I just do. I'm like, yeah, this is bullshit. I don't know why I'm like that. Again, it has its positives, it has its pros and cons, okay? But you're sitting up there and you're going, the Australian government's going to you, oh, well, this is to protect children. And, we really just, we're really concerned about kids. Okay, are you? Aren't you the same government that mandated children that had no risk from a disease, and we're also finding out was massively overdiagnosed? Okay? Didn't you force an experimental medicine that we don't know what the results are going to be? Probably infertility in a lot of women and men. Okay? You forced that on them. And why did you do that? Because your corporate overlords told you to. Jay, aren't you an investor? Yeah, but that doesn't mean I like crony capitalism and being told by some effeminate male sitting up in a fucking office somewhere who went to a bunch of clowns that pretend to be our representatives, paid them a bunch of money, and then they told me I need to take an experimental medicine. And then I'm like, yeah, no, you can't force me to buy stuff. And they go, oh, no, no, no. It's going to be free, except it's not. It's not free. I'm paying for it through inflation because, well, we're going to have the government. Okay, but you stole my money at gunpoint, right? Stole my money at gunpoint, pain of death, or, locked in a federal pound me in the ass prison. And then you took my money and then you circulated it back into the economy, causing more inflation. Okay? Right? So I actually did pay for it, right? Because you took my taxes and you gave it to the corporation. So I paid for it. Fuck off. Okay? But the first thing about the social media ban is most bureaucrats are clueless about anything to do with anything that goes on in the real world. Like, these are the people that write your rules and your laws are the most disconnected people from the consequences of their actions that could possibly be out there. They don't understand the issues, and they act like these authority figures. And I always use this example. I shouldn't say I always use it. I use this example a lot. And it's, I want you to picture a bar. Let's just picture a shitty horror movie for a second. This is an effective way to just visualize an authority figure. Zombie apocalypse is going outside the bar. We're all in the bar. We don't know what's going on. Everybody's scared. And a leader emerges. Somebody, and you can put this in any emergency situation. You're lost in the wilderness. You ran out of money at the strip club. That you ran out of cocaine after you got the strippers back to your apartment. It's an emergency because Mercedes is telling you, her life story and how she plans to rectify the whole thing. What she's going to do is get her life together tomorrow if we snort one more line of coke together. And, the typical stripper drama. I'm just doing this while I'm in college as she's blowing lines. Just got done filming a porn. You're horny because you have cocaine. It's dripping out of your nose like Zelensky on a Zoom call. Anyways, what did the authority figure that showed up look like? Did he look like Zoran Mamdani? Did he look like Albanese, whoever the prime minister of Australia is? Did he look like Jacinda Ardern? Did this leader that's going to save you? Or, you got a prowler around your house at, 2 o'clock in the morning and you call the cops. Who's the cop look like that shows up? I'm going to guess the cop that showed up looks like he could curb stomp a lion. Just grab a lion by the nape of the neck, throw him in a kitty carrier, and take him home. I know that's not realistic, but that's what you're picturing. And I'll get to the Brown thing. I didn't really know that poor beautiful victim at Brown was targeted. She was the VP of... Oh, shit. Oh, yep. Well, that's how the leftists work. And we're going to get to, I have ideas on a lot of this, but maybe I'll get to it. I don't know. But whatever. But yeah, I didn't see that beautiful victim. I kind of, on the whole mass shooting stuff, I kind of let it settle for a couple of days before I start looking into it. But let me finish on this social media rant, because we all know where this is going. This is going to digital ID. Let me tell you something. If you think the internet sucks a major bag of dicks now because of the AI slop, Google is trying to turn YouTube into just an AI slop factory where it'll be an AI voice going, And this is why the Israelis should be genociding the Palestinians. You know, it's like, it's so funny because dude, it really all is a psyop. Everything in the media is a psyop. And the more you learn about how psyops function, it becomes so lame because you see the same tactics used over and over and over again. Chase Hughes, I've been watching a lot of his videos. I'll look her up in a second, brother. I'll chat. Yeah. Sup, Nogstar? How you doing? Good, man. And, all right, kind of lost my train. But all psyops work essentially the same. This is the digital ID. This is the, social media. You got to show an ID. First off, before I get to that, let's point out something about this. Do you think that this social media ID restriction, Florida's getting something similar to it, hasn't stopped me from looking up porn? Did it stop any of you? I'll figure out a way around it. New websites will pop up that aren't on the radar. Or I'll just use a VPN and, I'm in Ghana. But, none of these kids, it's not going to prevent them from getting on any of these social media sites. All they're going to do is download a VPN. Then what are you going to do? See, this is the problem with bad ideas. Bad ideas have to be protected. This is why you get psyops. Nobody needs to be I shouldn't say nobody because there's a lot of morons out there. Most people don't need to be told to do something pleasurable or good for themselves. What you need, let me restate this. The truth does not need to be protected. Lies need to be protected. And that's what this is all about. This is where it's going to go. It's going to go that nobody on the internet can talk about news unless you're a trusted source. Who said these people are trusted? Just, again, another example of the psyop. Well, we need trusted journalists out there because we're going to get to Hilary Clinton and the garbage she's putting out. It's always the same thing. It's the elites the ruling class wanting to control the narrative because all of their ideas are bad for you. And you start noticing the hypocrisy. This is what will eventually destroy all of media. The ruling class, the oligarchs who want to control the message, and they're ultimately controlled too, to be honest with you. When you had Mark Zuckerberg on Facebook, and he's like, well, no, the FBI was telling us this, that, or whatever. And you're going, okay, so the government is controlling Facebook. Well, no. Facebook is about free expression. Facebook is a data mining and harvesting app. Most of Facebook's money comes from that. Okay. But the social media ban, it is what it is. It's not going to stop the kids from getting on there, doing whatever it is they want to do. And then this is exactly what's going to happen later on. Because the ruling class and the managerial class didn't get the results they want. What they're going to do is ask for more control. And then they're going to use another hypothetical. And this is how it works. Okay, so I've been listening to Chase Hughes a lot. Whatever you think of him, I take every influencer with a grain of salt. But I will say this. The guy is educated in the field of behavioral science. Just going to say that. And, whether he came up with it or not, he has a lot of great acronyms to remember this by. Because for a while, I was going, okay, but they're constantly trying to scare you. And then Why is Anderson Cooper on TV acting like he's an authority figure to me? And then they would try to establish like something in my mind, right? And then they would threaten me with being ostracized if I don't go along with the narrative. So it's called fate. And this is exactly how they run this bullshit to get you to give up your rights. Well, there's a lot of harms caused by social media. I agree. There's a lot of girls that are having mental health issues. I agree. Perhaps their parents should be, installing apps on their phone that prevent them from using these social media apps. Why? Because I'm a grown-ass man. And this is what I have to keep saying to people. I'm not giving up any rights. I'm not ceding any power to the government because you can't control yourself with, say, what drugs you put in your body, what you eat, what you watch on TV, or because you're feeling scared. Okay? So the first thing they're going to do is they're going to use that fear. Then they're going to go with authority. And this is where they trot out some fucking, clown on TV, right? Brian Stelter. Well, I can't even do a voice that's that high pitched because I think I was exposed to a little bit more testosterone in the wound than Brian Stelter. But what is this is what I would say to people. Why are you upset that people are listening to Joe Rogan? This is where the authority comes in. He's not a trusted news source. Who said CNN was a trusted news source? Or Fox News, or Newsmax, or MSNBC? Who said any of these are trusted news sources? What metrics did you use? How did you come to this conclusion? Well, most Americans, they trust CNN. How did you calculate that? Well, we did a poll. Okay, poll's not representative of anything. See, that's the authority. They're the authority. They come in and they try to establish authority. Jacinda Ardern, during COVID. If you're not hearing it from the government, it's not true. When the fuck in human history has the government ever been truthful with its populace? Name one time you find out that FDR, and I've known this since the late 90s, FDR knew the attacks on Pearl Harbor were coming. This is why the planes were all clumped up. This is why they were mostly older battleships that were left there. Okay? There you go. There's one example. They lied us into World War II. How much more do you need to know? Most of your guys on TV, Walter Cronkite was a CIA asset. I don't know where these people get. Remember when we had this consensus in America? Consensus. That's another word they're going to use. We need to have a consensus. Why? Why do you need to have a consensus? I don't need to have a consensus on what the best form of pizza is. What you're really saying there is we all need to subscribe to the same narrative. And then they'll do tribe. Well, Jay, you see, the thing it isn't about you. You're not one of those people that thinks that, with the harms that social media is inflicting on our kids, that we shouldn't take action. Are you? No, you're one of the good people. It's people over there. It's the business community. The business community that we get all our funding from. They're the ones that, they're trying to exploit your children for money. We're the good ones. We're going to protect you. And then you look at these people and you're like, you guys couldn't protect me from a fucking 60-year-old woman. Okay? And then they go to emotion. Once all that's failed, where you look at a guy like Anderson Cooper, where he tries to establish this rapport with you, and, that he's a member of your tribe. You guys are the good guys, remember? Once that fails, they go to emotion. And what they're going to do there is they're going to threaten you with what we all fear most, ostracism. And that's how they run every PSYOP. Now, go and look at every PSYOP that's been run. The PSYOP demands with a religious fervor that you agree with the narrative. Do you remember during COVID how angry some of these fucking retards were getting that you were like, no, I'm not taking the shot? Well, you're going to be fired from your job, ostracism. You didn't go with the tribe. It's not that anybody really wants to hear the truth. They want to hear what reinforces their narrative. The truth is, a large portion of the population hates the truth. They do. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear their opinion repeated back to them. And this is where it's going to go. It's going to go to, well, the first bill was sweeping and we found it a success, but there were some areas where we weren't getting the results we want. So we need more powers, more broad-ranging powers to protect you. And that's where it'll go. And that was basically my take on it. It's like I'm just sitting there going, yep, these people gave into it. After COVID, whatever action the government wants you to take, you should tell them to fuck off. Okay? Go to your job, pay your bills, pay your taxes, and just go to the beach and stop listening to these people. They do not have your best, they do not have good intentions towards you. But yeah, and, let's just show another, ruling class clown, Hilary Clinton. I don't understand why anybody listens to this woman. So I am going to shit all over this woman. If you're a Hillary Clinton fan, you might want to tune out now. Because it is unbelievable. I don't understand it. I really don't. I don't understand why this woman is trotted out like she has any level of credibility.
Young people, not just Americans, but literally.
Sorry about that. You guys are going to have to look at this angry, mentally ill visage from her. This just backs up what I'm saying. Go to 10:38, 10 minutes. All right. Okay, here we go. Let's listen to Hilary.
And also the future of the Democratic Party. I want to talk about you now. You've been in the news this past week for some comments you made at an event in New York organized by the newspaper Israel Hayom. And I'm going to paraphrase here, but you said that smart, well-educated young Americans are getting their news from social media and from TikTok. And you went on to say that this is how they're learning about what happened on October 7th and then what happened in Gaza in the months that followed. And it appears that this was a broader lament on your part about declining support among Americans for Israel. That comment has generated a lot of controversy, and it's led...
Maybe some of it is just the reality of what Israel is doing in the region. My personal opinion on Israel is this. It's complicated, right? I don't understand how Americans got sucked into this thing where the TV is telling me every 5 minutes I have to worry about Israel. Again, this is another psyop. Is you're not thinking about your neighbor, you're not thinking about your friends and family, you're worried about what's going on in the Middle East. But I think it's pretty obvious at this point that we're witnessing a genocide in Gaza. Now, that doesn't discount the fact that Hamas are evil people. Even though I could get into it's more likely than not, Hamas was actually created by Israel. Do I know that for a fact? No. But I'm just saying, confidence interval greater than 50%, which would mean more likely than not. But again, maybe it's some of it, maybe some of the dwindling support for Israel has to do with some of the behavior of the Israeli government. I think it's important to separate the government from the people.
Congressman Ro Khanna, for example, to point out that I don't think the answer is to disparage the intelligence of young people. It's been a few days now since you've said that. How are you reflecting on your words and the controversy around it?
Well, I think it is a provable fact that most Americans and an even bigger percentage of young Americans get their news from social media. If that is...
You think it's a provable fact, Hilary. I think it's a provable fact that I don't like you. Okay? That is actually a provable fact. That this blood-soaked warmonger, why she's trotted out and celebrated by anybody. You can tell that the world is fallen by the fact that anybody would support or listen to this monster. This woman is a literal monster. I'm sitting here and, I've said this about Barack Obama. I've said this about George Clooney. The image they portray to me are of smug assholes that think they're better than you. Now, I don't know. I've said this numerous times. I call out Barack Obama for a lot of things that he did. He could be the coolest dude I've ever met. And I sit down with him and he goes, listen, Jay, about those drone strikes in Afghanistan and Pakistan and the tribal regions and Libya, it's really that you're just going to have to accept that there's powers that are even above the president. And I only have so much power. And that's why that happened. I tried to stop it. I couldn't. Okay, fine. But this woman is actually literally a demon in human form. I don't give her the same level of doubt. I think this woman is mentally ill. I think she is narcissistic. She's definitely a psychopath. And she's definitely Machiavellian. We're going with the low-level dark triad or tetrad, however you want to say it. But yeah, how does she know? How does she know where Americans are getting their news from? Because CNN put up a poll because nobody wanted to look at that clown Anderson Cooper. I must call Anderson Silva a clown, which I would flog myself.
It's controversial, then people are not paying attention to how...
Is that a bad thing?
I don't know if it's a bad thing, but I think it's an incomplete...
Well, let me rephrase this.
They should be listening to you, Robbie. Obviously.
People do listen to me for what...
I know it's a joke, what she just said there, but it's not really a joke. It's one of those jokes that's revealing what she really thinks. So here's the question I would ask this gentleman up here. What subjects should I listen to you about? This is the problem with the media. Okay? You're telling me I need to listen to trusted journalists, right? What subjects? Do you think I should should you or I listen to this guy on finance? Because I tell you right now, this dude doesn't know shit about it. More likely than not. What else should you listen to him about? Like, what if your area of expertise is something that he's reporting on and he's wrong, which they almost always are? Because again, it's not about informing you. It's about pushing a narrative.
And I am also on Instagram and TikTok. But I guess the broader point here is that if Americans are shifting in their views about Israel. And poll after poll shows that that is the case. That is based on some information that they're getting not just from social media, but also from very reputable journalists operating in the region, also Palestinian journalists in Gaza. Why is that not accurate?
I'm not saying it's not accurate. I am saying that I teach at Columbia University, and I teach.
And there it is. I'm not saying it's not accurate. It's just not the narrative that we want. It's malinformation, guys. Look, you need to be listening to your ruling class owners on everything. Social media should just be Anderson Cooper, or whoever reporting to me bullshit narratives. And again, I go back to it. Here's the reality. I do a live stream for fun to talk about this kind of stuff. I don't really have anybody to talk about it, so I figured I'd come on and bore a bunch of strangers on the internet with my inane thoughts. But again, why should I actually care about Israel? I think it's an honest question. This is what I want to ask these people. What percentage of my day should be taken up by worrying about what's going on in Israel? What is it? How much time each day should I spend on this subject? Tell me, oh ruling class master, what I should worry about. Israel is in the Middle East and I'm in America, okay? I'm a normal dude. Of what use in my life is this information? Hillary Clinton thinks.
A course called Inside the Situation Room, and so it's a very large course. I co-teach it with the dean of the School of International and Public Affairs. And so I've had many conversations with very smart young people, not just Americans, but literally from around the world.
And it's worth pointing out that Colombia, of course, has been a center of some protest and action.
And it was.
On this issue.
Colombia works with the deep state. All the Ivy League schools are ruling class. I shouldn't say ruling class. All of the Ivy League schools are a place for the ruling class to send their children to learn how to be the next managers of society. I point this out all the time. The political science degree was created so the ruling class progeny could go off to college and not do shit and get a degree and then get conveniently placed in whatever part of the apparatus of the state that they were going to go into. Why do you think so many journalists, their parents were high up government officials? Minka Brzezinski, one of the chicks on CNN, her husband and her father. It's all just an inbred factory up there.
I talked to students there. I've talked to students elsewhere. And in talking with them about their views, they were certainly entitled to those views based on whatever information they had. But they did not always know why they were saying what they said. And all I'm asking for is that people...
Hilary, because kids are stupid. That's why. Everybody is stupid at 18 or 19. You haven't fully learned to control your emotions. And that's why you get these chants where people, from a river to sea.
Have a historical context, both for what has happened to the Palestinians and what has happened to the Israelis, because we are not going to implement the 20-point peace plan or any other peace plan unless people come with some sense of historical perspective and empathy about how we're going to move people toward what I still believe is the only realistic outcome, a two-state solution. And we're not going to get there if people when they say from the river to the sea, and you say what river and what sea, and they don't know, which have personally happened in conversations that I've had.
So you talk to one dumbass.
But this is a larger issue, because even on other matters in this class that I teach, we are not doing a good job teaching history. We're not giving young people the kind of context that I think they need to be.
Her views, her narrative. You need to push her narrative.
Decision makers.
But with all due respect, and I can't gauge how well young people grapple with history, but what I can speak to is they're grappling with the here and now. And they are witnessing images that are live streamed, that are coming out every day. And yes, there is misinformation and disinformation, but a lot of it is real. And I think there's a genuine anger in the United States and around the world that some of that anger is deflected.
But Ravi, I'm angry about all of the human rights abuses. I'm angry about all of the excessive use of force. I'm angry about,
No, you're not. You bombed Libya into a failed state. Dude, let's read some comments on Hilary. I love it. She has no idea how hated of a person she is. And again, right? All these comments. She's insane. He's supposed to be in jail. War criminal, criminal woman, family, traumatic. Governments have created traumatic for the. Yup. But I mean, it is what it is. That's the narrative. You know what I mean? All right, let's do some comments. We'll get to the FBI. We'll get to the FBI and why I'm almost positive now that Antifa was created by the actual deep state. Yeah, dude. That's not a surprise, man. I mean, like on this, I thought this is going to increase. Ella Cook. Yeah. Yep. She was targeted. Doing what's going on. Doing great, brother. And I'm working on my next game. Dude, sweet. Glad to hear it, man. How you doing? Rock hard. Started my test cycle. Had a low test for a while being off gear. It's a feeling and energy. Just don't go too nuts with it, Gil. Nice, man. Been getting newbie gains for the last 7 weeks. All I'd say to you dudes is coming from a guy who didn't have the frame, who tried to bodybuild and power lift, just be careful what you're doing in the gym, because your body wants to go to a natural weight and a natural amount of muscle. And if you put on too much muscle, it is detrimental to your cardio. And in my opinion, flexibility and cardio are probably the two most important things. That doesn't mean run till you're super skinny, and you can't pick up a pencil without breaking your wrist. But it also means, like, look, dude, if you're in an emergency situation, it's better to be able to run than pick up a lot of weight. Stepsist. Take some. All right, you guys are talking about some gear in here. Okay, I'm skipping over that. I'm not going to turn this into a bodybuilding. All right, this is turning into a bodybuilding discussion, which, not that I have a problem with it. I thank you guys for being in the comments. Jesus Christ, guys. All right, so we got through, because she's connected, bro, I'll rant on this. She's connected to the deep state. Like, Hillary Clinton has Secret Service protection. She thinks she's better than you. But yeah, Hillary Clinton did what the system wanted her to do. So they're going to trot her out because, again, the system spent so much time building. And here's the reality of it. The ruling class and even most of the DC bureaucrats are completely out of touch. They don't know what's going on in the world. Hillary Clinton, not that she would really care, because you're beneath, all of us are beneath her. You know, she apparently, when she takes a shit, you know, rainbows sprout, unicorns dance, it rains Skittles, and, you know, new life is created out of the turd that Hillary Clinton dropped in the toilet. I mean, these people, and this is why I don't understand it. I've tried. I try to. I don't understand how you can be so easily psyoped into admiring politicians. There is just a general rule I live my life by. Maybe it's fair, maybe it's not. And that is, all politicians are lying scum until proven otherwise. And that's just how I go with it. Like whenever a politician, any politician, tells me anything, I just assume they're lying. And, you know, it would be Hillary Clinton and I up on stage would be like oil and water. We would not mix. Because when she was saying, you know, something about the kids on TikTok, I would lead her. Hillary, arrogance, narcissism is a flaw that is easily taken advantage of. You know, when somebody's arrogant, like Hillary Clinton thinks she's the smartest person in any room she walks into, and she's not. Owned by Peter Thiel gives me a bad vibe. Oh, yeah. No, I could get into that. Trump is, I'll get into that in a second, but Hillary, like if I was up on stage, all I would do is I'd start asking her some leading questions. And this is all you ever have to do. With these people that are telling you how to think about everything, you know, who to listen to. Pick a subject you know a lot about and then compare it to what the news is telling you. That's the easiest way to find out how bad the news is. So, let's just look at us. We like talking about finance or whatever's in the news. You know, this started as a finance channel, but I don't know how many videos I can make on just buy index funds and go to the beach, play with 5% of your money. Have a system. I've shown it numerous times. Look at your assets. How far are you from your assets? Are you above or below? Look at your operating cash flow. Look at your, why? Because I want to see if the company's profitable. That's why you look at your operating cash flow. Look at your price to book, which is just, you know, your shareholder equity less preferred equity divided by your shares outstanding. That tells you how much you're paying for the equity within the company or anything of value in it. Okay. But if you listen to the news, and if I was talking to this reporter and I said, well, I'm really interested in finance. What are some good stocks to buy? I'm sure Nvidia, Palantir, Netflix, you know, all the usual suspects that are massively overvalued are going to be the ones they're telling me to buy. Why? Retail money goes in. People at the top, they sell off. You lose money. They make money. That's why that happens. Most of it is always about money. But I would just start asking her some questions. Well, who should I listen to? Well, you want to listen to any of the trusted, vetted names in news. Okay, why are they trusted? Who said they were trusted? Well, I am. Okay, but I don't know you that well. Could you be lying to me? Hillary Clinton. No, I wouldn't lie to you. See one of my rules. All politicians are lying scum until proven otherwise. Okay? Why should I believe you that this is a trusted news source? Well, I have 40 years or 50 years of being a swamp rat. All right, well, this carries no weight with me. So, you said it was trusted. You can't tell me by whom and why I should trust, because people get things wrong all the time. How did you determine that these are the news sources to listen to? CNN, Fox News, they ever been wrong? Like on weapons of mass destruction in Iraq? Has the government ever been wrong? Again, weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, COVID. Lying about World War II, lying about the Gulf of Tonkin incident, performing the Tuskegee experiments, murdering a woman holding her child and a guy's son at Ruby Ridge, incinerating a bunch of women and children at Waco. Why should I believe you now? Why do you think you're trusted? I'm not understanding this. Yeah, it would go over like somebody walking up, like an obese woman walking up and farting in her face. That's why it would be oil and water. But yeah, like these people, I see people going, dude, I had this friend, Facebook. Now I want you to picture your typical progressive. This guy looks exactly like it. Hunched over, it's got the hunchback, because he's never stood up straight. Just typical fucking progressive. Posting all over, I'm with her, and excited about politics. I'm like, you got this fucking dorks. Argue my weed stop finally bounced 50% Friday. GTBIF. I'm looking that up, brother. All right. Let me see this. I'm going to tell you what I would do. Probably wrong, but GTBIF. Okay. GTBIF. Piece of shit. GTBIF. Get Biff. Green thumb. $2-3 billion. Let me put this up. Let me see what I'm looking at here. All right. Market cap $2.23 billion. Let's look at your assets. Yeah. That's not bad, man. Might be still undervalued. GTBIF might be still undervalued because you got $2.639 billion in assets. All right. And I mean, this is just a quick look. I might look at it later. Yeah, man, right on. Yeah, that makes sense. Operating cash flow of 9. If you're about 10, you're probably at your assets. Free cash flow, I don't really worry about that too much. Price to book, 1.22. Price to sales, 1.93. In the money zone. Good, man. Let's see here. You collect no dividend, but... And this is why, one of the reasons why I warned people about the PE ratio. A lot of times, I don't use price to earnings ratio on anything but index funds. The reason being is because there's just way better ways to look at it. Because if you look at this, your PE ratio is 51, but you're really paying 9 times your operating cash flow. And again, it's another kind of psyop. If you notice something, in most of the literature on stocks, what they tell you to do, or they report in the media, is they tell you to pay attention to the PE ratio. But again, PE ratio is a poor metric. Dude, I hope he reschedules it, Because again, the war on drugs, all it is a money laundering operation for the deep state. Okay? Now, if you want to make the case that heroin should remain illegal, okay. That's not a hill I'm going to die on. Because I know that your average person, even though they instinctually know, once I start breaking down, like once I start breaking it down to them, they know what the war on drugs is. But a lot of them can't internalize. Well, legalized heroin? Yeah. Heroin's actually less dangerous than alcohol, just so everybody knows. About 175,000 deaths from alcohol every year. Alcohol and benzodiazepines, I believe, are the only two drugs you can die from a withdrawal from. So, I mean, and to be honest with you, pure pharmaceutical heroin made by the pharmaceutical companies is not as bad for you as people make it out to be. How do you know this is the case? Well, I don't know. Actually, let me think about that one for a minute. Kind of going stream of consciousness. But pure pharmaceutical heroin is nowhere near as bad for you as the street drug. And we can verify that by just simply saying during Prohibition, a lot of people died from bad alcohol. And that's what happens in the market. It's cut with shit, dewormer, stuff like that. And that's really what causes a lot of the abscesses and other things that go along with it. Again, I'm not willing to die on that hill because I know most people are not receptive to the message. But weed being illegal is literally one of the fucking dumbest things I've ever heard about. We're going to lock you in a cage because you decided to smoke some plant and chill on your couch and feel really good and possibly eat some salty snacks. That's the logic behind it. Well, no, it's illegal because it's bad for you. Smoking's legal. What's worse for you? Smoking pot or tobacco? Not a contest. Alcohol's legal. Just told you. It's one of the world's deadliest drugs. Well, you're going to reschedule meth? Meth is a Schedule II drug that is prescribed. Meth is not at all the boogeyman that it's made out to be in the media. Yeah, certain people develop problems with it, but I'm not one of them, so I don't give a fuck. Yeah, dude, this is what I wanted to expand on. Notice how none of the deep state bullshit is going away. Notice how Trump wants to give Palantir more power. Palantir needs less power. I don't care about a corporation and what it's doing when it doesn't have a connection to the government. But the problem is Palantir is deeply in bed with the government. Which means it's a corporation that's basically unaccountable now because it's working with the government. Fascism, one of the definitions is the lucrative or the merger of corporate and state interest. So, it is what it is. But yeah, Peter Thiel owns J.D. Vance. Would I prefer J.D. Vance to whatever swamp troglodyte they're going to throw at us in 2028? Yeah. But I also think the 2024 election was the actual last election. And basically, I think there's going to be a lot of problems. I think you're going to get another presidency or two out of it. And I think a lot of the ruling class sees it. But the public isn't going for it anymore. Nobody likes these fucking people because they're do-nothings. And in some ways, that's a good thing, but they're all connected to billionaires. Trump has billionaires behind him. You know, I don't know how you untangle this shit system that we've created. The billionaires have a point in certain things that they say. Well, we need labor in this country because nobody wants to fucking work anymore. Everybody wants to be an influencer. Fame is destroyed. I don't know if I'm going to be the first person to tell everybody this. Fame is done. Within 6 years, it won't matter whether you're an actor, a big name. I don't even think there'll be big name actors in 6 years. If you look at the current trajectory, Hollywood blew its nut on making slop and trying to communicate the message. This was put forth by the government. This was what the government wanted. And the public wholeheartedly rejected what they were selling. So where does this go from here? Well, it gets worse. See, why fame is done, why politicians being celebrated is done, and I mean, a politician being celebrated is fame, is for this reason. Distance. People get sick of you when they see you all the time. You know, this is the Pedro Pascal problem. Hey, we need a cucked male to star next to a strong, independent woman. Pedro Pascal goes out there and he talks. And you realize what an insufferable cunt he actually is. Again, maybe he's a cool guy. Maybe if I met him in real life, he was like, look, man, I'm trying to pay some bills. And if I have to go up there and say some stupid shit because some studio executive wanted me to do that, I'm going to do it. In which case, I'm going to look at him and go, I completely understand. You know, it is what it is. I understand that. You know, it was like the point I tried to make about John Cena when he was speaking Mandarin. And he said something he shouldn't have. Some people in China got offended. And then John Cena did his hostage video. And I said, what did you expect the guy to do? He's got a movie coming out. It's not about you at that point. I would have done the same thing John Cena did. I would have said, because I wouldn't want to ruin the movie. And I wouldn't want to affect my co-stars because I said something stupid. So I'd go out there and go, yeah, I guess I didn't understand the culture and I want to apologize if I misspoke. You know, I would have done the same thing he did. But again, it looks bizarre to your average person. Name a rock star politician. I mean, this is what the ruling class wanted. What they wanted to do, in my opinion, is silo everybody. They thought they had the tools of control, but it's illusionary. The internet's not real. Your friends and family, they're real. Your coworkers, they're real. But the internet and the messaging drove a wedge between people. You know, after the Iraq War, the ruling class realized the Iraq War and then Fed intervention, all the bullshit comes up. You get a massive financial crisis. They wanted something different. Here's a reset. Here's a black man. He's going to be your president. See how the PSYOP still keeps going, that we even view ourselves in this lens of, as a black man, I feel this way. Why is the color of your skin determining your opinion on a subject? Well, it's part of the ruling class siloing you. You learn about stereotypes in school, but all they do is reinforce them. Well, you're a conservative, so you think this. Maybe. Not every view that I have lines up with the Republican Party or other conservatives. Yeah, my viewpoint on I have to hear about everybody's sexuality. I don't want to hear about your sexuality. Whether you're gay, straight, trans, lesbian, alien, whatever it is. But again, this is another. As a gay man, why would your sexuality determine how you feel about a subject? Well, I'm gay and I want to get married. Okay. Well, the Christians are hateful. They won't let me play their game. So your self-esteem is so dependent on how other people view you, that you're going to get mad at them when they have their religion and they tell you that that is not a part of their religion and that's how they feel. And it's hateful. Why is it hateful? This obnoxious belief that I need to celebrate and accept everybody. Who said? Why do I have to accept everybody? Well, Jay, this is the Overton window. This is the official narrative on abortion. You're either, for, because you're conservative, you're for, no abortions. And, and then if you're left wing, you're for abortions up to 18 years. Why? Personally, I don't go too far into the abortion debate. I don't feel like arguing about this subject. I view it as murder. And again, it becomes a thing like on the war on drugs, where I'm going to pick and choose my battles. But yeah, after they put Obama in there and they turned him into the chief divider. And that's what he did. And that's what his job was. Why? Because the ruling class was terrified after the great financial crisis, where they all got bailouts and the average person didn't. So they needed you to fight amongst yourselves. That is the model that has been used since time immemorial. That is how the model works. Divide the rest of the populace so they can't oppose you. Again, J.D. Vance, I like the views he espouses more than I like the Democrat views. But again, J.D. Vance and every politician is owned. They're owned by the same people that own you. You just have to figure out how to navigate the system and stop listening to what the TV is telling you to think. Because none of those people are smarter than you at home. It's a reality. J.D. Vance is an intelligent guy. J.D. Vance, if him and I took an IQ test, it would surprise me not at all if he came out above me. But that doesn't mean he's so intelligent that I'm just going to listen to everything that he says and do what he wants me to do. And this is the problem. I keep looking at people and going, why are you asking the government to solve your problems? They are not the people, the bureaucrats are not the most knowledgeable people. In fact, most bureaucrats are the dumbest, most useless humans outside of HR. And even then, those are bureaucrats. So there's nobody that's going to come in and save us. Right now, the ruling class wants to be able to spy on you constantly because this is how it always goes. The ruling class begins to fear the populace. They start enacting laws. the populace starts to get more and more pissed. But it is what it is, because they begin to view you as the threat. Well, I don't want to leave my mansion and my grift. So, let's have Palantir spy on everybody, and Facebook. And, if we have to, we could just blackmail these people. It is what it is. I'm sure Peter Thiel has a ton of blackmail on J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance went to, where'd he go? Yale or Harvard? I'm sure he was fingering some dude's asshole in a Skull and Bones meeting, just like everybody else does. They all go there and they all do gay shit, so they have blackmail on each other. It's the same thing that they do at Bohemian Grove. The ruling class are the fucking most weird people. And this is another reason why fame is done. I have too much access to them. I know they're not intelligent. When Amanda Seyfield or Sigfield, whatever her name is going out there and going, maybe we should try socialism and just try loving each other. What kind of flowery bullshit is this? I'm dealing with a fucking moron who's never picked up a book and realized the absolute hellscape that socialism creates. Because socialism produces nothing, then you have to enforce the narrative with force. So that means you got to disappear people. And then when the food dries up, because you gave it to your buddy, hey, dude, what did you do before? Oh, I had a degree in gender studies. Oh, you're a farmer now. Oh, really? Great. I always wanted to control the food supply, and then everybody's starving. But you have that woman going out there saying that shit. Think about how much retarded shit comes out of these celebrities' mouths. Somebody told them they have authority and that the populace looks up to them. And it's easy to see that when you're going down the street. Oh, it's Robert Downey Jr. And people are screaming. They don't know what to do. But then you start listening to them at press conferences. And most of them are not fun, not intelligent. And that's why fame is done. Influencers are even worse. So I don't even understand how anybody becomes an influencer. It's like a step down from being a TV. It's a step down from being a reality TV star. I'm not fucking listen to Wes Watson. That Omega cuck. Stripper girlfriend with 2 kids still won't bang that loser. Wes Watson. Oh, I'll beat up any UFC fighter. I'll beat up any mixed martial artist. Yeah, okay, steroid head. No, you're not. But and fame is only going to get more ridiculous and harder to generate for people. So, it is what it is. I agree with you on flexibility being more important than muscle. I was so fat, a little lifting, mostly got skinny fat. Yeah, I mean, that's just a point I had to learn the hard way over years of just doing the wrong thing. I'm an ectomorph, okay? 5'10" and a half. So I should probably be weighing a good muscular version of me is about 175 pounds. But one of the things that I noticed is when my weight gets much above 185, the cardio hit is, I'll put it to you this way. 170 pound me in the Air Force running 1.5 miles in about 9:20 to 9:30, and I wasn't even really killing myself. I got up to like 195 pounds from powerlifting, which was way too much weight for my frame. And my run dropped to like over 11 minutes. So, it's just something I've noticed. I've also noticed from the weightlifting, you get super tight. Tightness is an easy way to get injured. That's why I started stretching out twice a day, in the morning and before I go to bed. And it has made my life way better. I feel better. So if you're going to start doing the weights hard, make sure you're doing a lot of stretching. Work in some yoga. But anyways, guys, what are we at? We're at about an hour. I'm probably going to call it here. I'll get to the Antifa thing. It was funny. Maybe next week, but yeah. So, all right, gents. I'm going to close up shop here. And I just want to say, we got more comments. Oh, we're not going anywhere. Wait, no, are we? Okay. I got some more comments. All right, whatever. My bad. We're not going anywhere. I thought my comments were done. Is that Pedro dude that played Mando? Yeah, that's him. Yeah, dude, he's like Hollywood's go-to for being a cuck. And like they cucked Joel in The Last of Us. You know, it is what it is. Bella Ramsey is not taking down me, much less a 240-pound man. So you got to put somebody in there to make her look tough, and that's Pedro Pascal. Great guy. Chase Hughes. He got unjustified hate. Who did? I'm kind of lost. Sometimes I lose it because I don't remember where I was. So I think the White House is... Yeah, that could be it. You know, I don't... But this is... Bro, this is an example of what happens when you give up a right. I don't know that I'm going to sit here and say smoking weed is a right. But when you cede your power to the government, okay, it got criminalized in whatever it was. The Controlled Substance Act, I think it was like 70 or 71. And my problem with the drug war is just consistency and the fact that I know it's a money laundering operation. If the government wasn't selling drugs and the scheduling made sense, like, you know, when they went to, where's the quote? I'll show you exactly what it is. Robert Ehrlich. On the war on drugs. Okay, so, all right, so here you go. And this is one of my main problems with it, okay? One, it's consistency, but Robert Ehrlichman was an advisor to Richard Nixon. And he said in a 1994 Harper's Bazaar article, you look that up. He said, do you want to know what it was really about? We knew we couldn't criminalize black people for asking for equal rights, which I'm going to tell you this right now, and I'm going to work this one out more, but the civil rights movement was a psyop. It was to get black people back under control of the government, because ironically enough, they weren't under segregation. But again, that was all the ruling class elites. And then the working and poor get the blame. That's who the ruling... Oh, you know, you guys are racist. You guys were the fucking ones that invented Jim Crow, which was detrimental to poor white people and black people. But yeah, it was designed to criminalize black people and hippies. That's how. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But again, we're looking at almost 60 years at this point. And then here's how you know it's a psyop. Here's the other one. I talked about it last week. The utopia. Jay, here's what you're not getting. Win, lose, or draw, we should fight this war. Why? I don't agree with the premise of it. Well, then you're not one of the good people. But if we just cut the head off the snake of the cartel, cut that cartel's head off, nobody's ever going to do drugs again. Does that eliminate marijuana? Cannabis, because that's the real name. The marijuana is a made-up term. Rogan covers this. I'm not going to go too deep into it. But marijuana was a term invented by William Randolph Hearst. And forget the guy's name right now, but the guy who ran the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. Why is there a Federal Bureau of Narcotics? Again, unconstitutional. I don't need the government in my life, right? For the most part. But yeah, they probably are doing something like that. Oh, I think it is. It's going to fracture. And a lot of it is purpose, on purpose. Any movement will be fractured and atomized. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Because if the market doesn't hold, which I'm hoping it does through 2026, but people are feeling the effects still of the economy that nobody wants to do anything about. So, yeah, not that it matters. They get screwed in every country. Because at a certain point, the ruling class always does this. And so does the managerial class. Because the managerial class functions as the old aristocracy. If you go back, the dukes, the barons, they're all just managers. They were managing peasants. But at least back then, they knew that their power was derived, or their success was derived from the peasants. Okay? And that's how it works. You get a title. Notice how in the managerial class, when you get an email from them, it's all their titles everywhere. MBA, blah, 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 X university, this certificate, all down. They have to tell you in the email. Aristocracy, I'm a baron. Titles. Where in the working class, it's accomplishments. But yeah, they infantilize us. And that's basically how the PSYOP works also. Well, you need trusted voices to sort through the information for you. Do I? I guess that's why they're letting in Muslims in Europe everywhere to divide and conquer. Yeah, that's it. So, if you look at the Middle East, what the British did was basically set all the different tribes against each other so that they couldn't resist the colonial powers. They did that in every country. And one of the reasons why they're importing Muslims is because if you have two groups, again, all opinion, if you have two groups, it justifies an authoritarian crackdown because these two groups aren't getting along. It's also battery farming humans because we're all running out of people. We're headed into a demographics crisis. People want to ignore it. We're going to the top of the hill at this point. And the roller coaster is going to go over that hill in the next 15 years. Baby boomers die off, no babies being born, drive around this country. Any kids playing on the playground? When I go back to my old town where I grew up in the summer, there's no kids in the park playing sports. That's all we did in the 90s. I'd ride my bike 2 miles into town to play basketball. Kids don't do that anymore because there's no fucking kids. It is what it is, man. People want to maintain the system no matter what. Yeah, it did because it did. I'm going to do this last couple comments and then we'll get out of here. Podcasting peaked because Rogan had such high level of success. And it was something that was new. Nobody had seen. No worries, mate. I don't expect you to stay up. No worries, mate. I don't expect anybody to stay up to listen to me rambling about shit in the world on the internet. I know this is not that good, and I appreciate anybody that hangs out because I get to have fun. But Rogan comes along, and it's this new thing. He's having all these weird guests on, like Graham Hancock, who I'm actually a fan of, and I think a lot of his hypotheses are correct on Egypt and ancient civilizations. I give him a lot of credit on that. I don't know, but what he says makes a lot of sense to me. Robert Schoch, all of those guys. Rogan brought you into this interesting world you might not have been exposed to before. Stand-up comedy, his friends group, and the fact that his podcast is 3 hours long. Because a lot of times, Rogan took over a lot of what was talk radio. The problem is, everything peaks and ebbs. Too many podcasts got started because everybody wants to be an influencer because they all think it's easy money, and it's actually not. Podcasting is a rich person's pursuit. Yeah, there's going to be a few guys that snake through because of luck. But this is what I would ask anybody. Would you want to be a guy who has a few 100,000 followers? You don't really have any skills because this is not like a real job that you're going to be able to put on a resume unless you're going into the podcasting scene. Oh, I worked at X podcast. But a lot of these people are dependent on their YouTube money, whereas I'm not. This is freeing for me. I can just come on here and ramble about whatever I want to ramble. If it takes off one day, which I don't think it will, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't care. I don't want to be an influencer. I don't want fame. I don't want, I find it empty and vapid. I don't want to be in Tim Pool's situation where his house is getting shot up or shot in the neck because you're a good religious man who wants to share his faith and crazy if the guy did it. I have a lot of questions on that. I'm proceeding right now as if they have the correct guy, but I want to see what evidence they have. His body language in court and smiling. I don't believe the official narrative, but whatever, I'll wait and see. But I don't want to be a guy out there going, yeah, these are my opinions, and I get shot in the neck by some kid who fell in love with a trans furry. That's me. But would you really want to be an influencer? It's again, most of fame and everything is a Potemkin village. You see the people that won the lottery, but you don't see where the average person ends up with fame. There are guys in Hollywood who are complete losers. They had a show in the 1970s and they walk around and somehow everybody fucking celebrates this guy that hasn't done anything in 50 years. A lot of these people are weird. And Hollywood is just littered with the corpses of people seeking fame. My idea, if I was looking at somebody who wanted to be an actor today, I would just look at him and go, yeah, man, go out to LA, see what you can get done, but have a skill when you go out there. Have a 9-to-5 job in case it doesn't work out. It's the same thing with podcasting. And, a lot of these people that are podcasters, they're broke. They're desperate. Even a lot of actors who start podcasts are broke and desperate. It'd be one thing if you saw some cool ass actor. He's just sits there and he likes to talk about cinema, likes to talk about movies, who's already made it. But a lot of what you see with fame is not the reality. It's a lot of just fake, this is the image, fake it till you make it. And a lot of the people in Hollywood are actually just grown children. You know, you had that Hollywood producer who drugged those two girls and they both died. And the guy was like 40 something years old. And I go, why are you going to clubs trying to get 20-year-old women when you're 40 something? I don't understand. Look, you're famous, you're out there. There's a smoking hot young chick and she's like, oh, I saw you on that show. Take me back to your place. Okay. You know, it is what it is. But a lot of these people in Hollywood are fucking losers. So are a lot of these influencers that you look up to. That, again, it's the whole fame thing. The whole fame thing is going to die. It's going to become atomized just like everything else. So, all right, gentlemen and ladies, if you're out there, I'm going to call it. I'll be back next Sunday. And I want to thank everybody for hanging out, listen to me ramble. And I hope you guys have a great week. Again, thanks for listening. Thanks for the comments. And yeah, man, hope your week is great. Hope everything works out for you guys. And have a great night. And I'm out.